If you're experiencing conflict and friction in your relationship, then watch today's video where I'm going to be sharing 3 parts of your birth chart that you can compare with your partner to easily mediate this conflict and get back to peace in your relationship. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Isabel, your spiritual rebel friend, and today we are talking about how to mediate conflict in romantic relationships using astrology. Specifically, 3 parts of your birth chart or aspects/points in your birth chart that you can look at either on your own or with your partner that instantly will mediate this conflict. I have personally used this in relationships. I've seen this with clients. I've used this with clients. I've used this with friends. It works, seriously. And these are 3 parts of your birth chart that play, simply put, a heavy role in what you need from life and in relationships that heavily affect relationships. So if you are experiencing constant bickering with a partner or a lack of fulfillment and you're getting more frustrated with your partner, or if you feel like you guys just keep missing the mark for some reason, whether that's in conversations, in interactions, if it feels like there's just some sort of friction in your relationships, these 3 aspects in your birth chart could help you understand why you're experiencing this sense of conflict and how to navigate it so you can get back to peace and ease in your relationship. And of course, if you want to go deeper into your relationship astrology, whether that's with your partner or on your own, I invite you to book a reading in the description box below, where we can pull many different forms of charts in regards to your relationship, including composite charts where we compare basically the zero-sum point between your 2 charts, or synastry charts, which is how your relationship is going to be according to how your birth charts interact. We also have anniversary charts that you can do for my married couples out there, or couples with an established set date that they started dating, that we can compare what the destiny of the relationship is. And we can also go into your individual birth charts and what your guys' needs are according to astrology. Sky's the limit, basically. Whatever questions you have regarding your chart, astrology has the answer. So I invite you to book a reading in the description box below. So what are these 3 parts of your birth chart that can help you mediate conflict in a relationship? How can we use it, and why does it help us in the first place? And why is this actually the 3 major causes for conflict in a relationship? Let's start by breaking them down one by one, starting off with what I consider to be the most obvious one and simplistic one to keep in mind in any relational dynamic, which is your Mercury. Your Mercury is how you think and communicate. And given that there are 12 different signs that your Mercury can be in, there are 12 different ways people think and communicate. And even within that, there are technically 3 different decans of each sign. So even if you and your partner happen to have the same Mercury sign, there are 3 different decans it can be in, which give it a subtle different way of perceiving reality. And there are 12 different houses each Mercury can be in as well, which is where this mental energy gets most directed and where it focuses on the most. So your Mercury tells you how you think and communicate, and understanding your Mercury tells you how you naturally perceive reality, because Mercury truly acts as a filter on reality. Imagine that, simply put, there are 12 different literal filters, like colors, that you can put over reality, and we choose to block everything out but one. That is your Mercury placement. The most common reason I see for communication struggles and verbal conflict in relationships is because of Mercury conflict, meaning that 2 Mercuries are trying to come towards each other and they keep missing the mark because they see reality in different ways. Let me tell you, I've never interacted with someone who has the same Mercury as me, and that's not true. I've never been in a close relationship with anyone who has the same Mercury as me. And just the amount to realize how differently people think is wild and crazy. And so understanding your Mercury and your partners is key to solving relational dynamics. Because, for example, let's say you are a Mercury in a water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. You're naturally going to perceive everything your partner says and everything you say in terms of emotions. You have an emotional end goal with everything you say. It's not that these people always are wishy-washy and sharing their emotions, but everything they say has an emotional desired outcome, such as Mercury and Cancers. They choose words to say that are going to soothe their person or make them feel soothed. They may be thinking something, an emotional concern on a deeper level, but they choose their words based off of trying to reach an emotional result. Whereas a Mercury in an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, communicates on the basis of reaching a material result, saying, I'm just going to state the facts. This is the physical situation. Their filter filters out all emotions and all intellect and just focuses on their material comfort and material reality. Oftentimes, these people can hit heads because Mercury sees facts. Mercury in earth signs sees facts, and Mercury in water signs sees emotions. And so then they're perceiving things in different ways and seeing different meanings behind what their partner is saying. And then to finish that example, to give you a general overview, Mercury in fire signs only see their own personal beliefs, their own personal desires, and their own personal opinions. Even if they're not personally opinionated, they truly see things through just the lens of who they are. And Mercury in air signs sees things through intellect and curiosity, and similar to Mercury in earth signs, like data, but instead of focusing on material security and material reality, they're focusing on the facts of things and the thoughts and the stimulation. And so Mercury in air signs may have oftentimes conflict because they are treating the conversation like a curiosity, and Mercury in fire signs can sometimes have conflict in relationships because they treat conversations as a stimulation, something fun to do, a way to express your passions and opinions. Whereas a Mercury and earth sign sees we should only communicate if we need to, and a Mercury water sign says we need to communicate in order to feel connected. So understanding the differences between your Mercury signs with your partner is key in resolving conflict, because this is one of the most basic common ones I see, and that simply put, you guys are perceiving the same thing with different data, or you're perceiving the same thing in different ways. So I encourage you to look at you and your partner's Mercury and compare elements, even simply put. How do you guys perceive reality differently? And I do have a Mercury sign workbook available if you do not understand your Mercury at all. I also have YouTube videos talking about each Mercury placement on my Mercury sign or Mercury 101 sign and houses playlist that you can check out as well. Hopefully I'll remember to put it in the card up above. But your Mercury is the first one you're going to want to look at. If you're experiencing conflict with your partner, double check your Mercuries and ask yourself, how can we better understand each other's communication style? Because oftentimes I will see that truly a lot of my clients and close relationships, those in relationships, they have solved relationship conflict just by understanding each other's Mercury and their communication style. Now, I spent a lot of time talking about Mercury, so we're going to make the next two a little bit faster so you guys can take the information and run with it. The second aspect in your chart that you may want to compare if you're experiencing relational conflict in your romantic relationship specifically is your 7th house cusp, also known as your descendant. You will not know your descendant or 7th house cusp if you do not know your time of birth. So if you don't know your time of birth, or I would say even your partners, you might want to skip over this, but you can still gain some advice. I will give some advice for you guys at the end, so maybe skip to the end of this segment. But your 7th house cusp is what you expect of a relationship. It's what your idea of a good relationship is. And this is a very common one I see that stresses out couples, usually on the basis of specifically when I meet couples who are on the verge of divorce. They're saying there's just something wrong. And it tends to be a 7th house cusp dynamic, in that your 7th house cusp tells you what you value in a relationship. And usually two people, they have them in different elements or different signs. It's really helpful to break this down simply put by element, because in the end, in this context for 7th house cusps, a 7th house cusp in an earth sign wants a relationship that is stable, secure financially, and doesn't ask any more of them. It's comfortable. 7th house in a fire sign is going to want passion, intensity, and challenge in their relationship. 7th house cusp in a water sign wants emotional understanding and connection and support in a relationship. That's what they want it to be built upon. And a seventh house cusp in a air sign wants intellectual stimulus and mental understanding above all else in their relationship. That's what they want it to be built upon, curiosity. And so a common dynamic I see that leads to conflict in relationships is two people having their seventh house cusps in different elements. Generally, water and earth tend to get along better, and fire and air tend to get along better. But I say you and your partner have a seventh house cusp in a fire sign and an earth sign. The earth person probably feels like you're constantly pushing them out of their comfort zone, and the fire person feels like you're never on board to do anything new. And so understanding the dynamic between what your expectations of a relationship are can be very helpful. Compare seventh house cusps and ask yourselves how you can meet in the middle upon these two traits and if you guys get along or not. Even simply put, maybe you guys both have them in earth signs, but maybe one's in Taurus and one's in Capricorn. Maybe one partner wants the relationship to be focused on growing success and the other wants to just be comfortable. Comparing the sign that your seventh house cusp in can be key in resolving relational conflict because there's an unconscious expectation of what a good relationship is according to your seventh house cusp. And if you don't know your time of birth and your seventh house cusps, I do invite you to go through the zodiac wheel and ask yourself, which of these traits or qualities do I feel like I value the most in a relationship dynamic? And finally, the last part of your chart that you can compare if you're experiencing relational conflict that I've personally noticed for myself is your moon sign. Now, your moon sign is what I like to call the cranky toddler that you have to carry around with you for the rest of your life, because our moon sign represents our inner child and it's our emotional needs that never go away. At the end of each day, no matter what we achieve, what we succeed at, what we do, how purposeful we feel, we want our moon sign fulfilled. We want our emotional fulfillment. And so a common relationship dynamic that I see that creates a subtle stress undertone or feeling of disconnect between partners is having different moon signs and not understanding each other's emotional needs. An example for maybe a previous relationship of mine, with my moon in Cancer and his moon in Gemini, I didn't quite consciously process that I was always seeking out emotional security and a sense of connection, whereas he wanted just curiosity and lighthearted stimulus. So it always felt like, cool, we can mentally connect, but where's the emotion involved? And that created a subtle distress. And I also noticed this for early on couples as well, and I'll compare this. I'll meet people who have different moon signs and I'll watch their dynamic and I'll see one trying to reach for more of their moon sign in the relationship and the other is completely oblivious. It goes both ways though. And simply put, understanding each other's emotional needs is going to be what's most important to them. And if you make someone's moon sign feel fulfilled, then you make them feel loved. Yes, your Venus is also your love language, but your moon sign is what makes you feel most emotionally fulfilled. So understanding you and your partner's moon sign reciprocally in a reciprocated way, where you guys both understand truly one another's, is key to a harmonious relationship above all else. I also additionally have a workbook on your moon sign called the Moon Sign Self-Care Workbook, where I cover everything you need to know about every moon sign and how to fulfill it. I do feel like it's very powerful for couples to literally print out the worksheets and swap and read them and say, did I know these things about you? Give me an example of how this plays out for you. Give me times where I have done this, where this feels good for you. It really does make a big difference above all else. Arguably, I would say even though I put the moon sign last, if you fulfill one another's moon sign above all else, everything else works itself out. It doesn't matter if you have different Mercuries. It doesn't matter if you have different seventh house cusps. If you know how to bring emotional fulfillment to the table and make that person feel emotionally fulfilled, then relationships become so much more harmonious. And it's not necessarily their job, your partner's job, to provide you this emotional fulfillment. You fulfill this moon sign for yourself in every area of your life, but they can also add to that. So making sure this doesn't become a dialogue of you have to fulfill my moon sign, but this is what would help the most, is key to a harmonious relationship. So as your conclusion, comparing your Mercury, your seventh house cusp, and your moon sign, because your Mercuries are how you guys are going to miscommunicate and misinterpret each other. Your seventh house cusp is your guys' different expectations of a relationship, and your moon sign is the different emotional needs that you guys may not realize that you have. So let me know down in the comments below. Have you compared these three with your partner? What are you and your partner's placements of these? What have you noticed in your dynamic? Does this help you resolve any relational conflict that you have? Or are you maybe dealing with someone who's a bit resistant? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos breaking down the stars and more. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. Once again, my name's Isabel. From my heart to yours, namaste.